Energy is everywhere. Now, what you may not know is why energy, given its natural abundance, has become an economic good. After all, goods become economic partly as a result of their scarcity. I recently heard a quote from someone a lot smarter than I could ever hope to be that goes, "Since energy is an essential ingredient in all terrestrial activities, it follows that the history of the evolution of human culture must also be a history of man's increasing ability to control and manipulate energy." In this quote lies the secret to energy's scarcity. It isn't energy itself that is scarce. Instead, what is truly scarce is our ability to deliver it at a specific rate whenever we desire. This, my fellow viewers, is where we find the maker or breaker of regimes. Let us first highlight the importance of this so-called delivery of energy through some historical examples. The rise of the Mongol Empire in the 13th century is arguably a result of the empire's ability to move with relative ease via horses. This mobility, however, relied heavily on the empire's access to energy wherever they went. In other words, their horses needed fuel to continue supplying the empire with power. This fuel comes in the shape of horse feed. Now, you must be wondering, how did the Mongol Empire manage to transport and deliver energy wherever they went? And the answer is simple. They didn't. Thanks to the pluvial periods, that is, rainy periods, of their time, they did not have to carry their energy demands with them. The rain did this for them. Rain delivered their fuel necessities by sprouting bountiful green pastures. This abundance in grass meant that their rate of consumption, or demand of energy, could be met at any time. Speaking of time, let's jump ahead to a more recent example, at a completely different location called Canada. Much like the Mongol Empire, such abundance and tractable energy dwelled in Canada for a large part of the country's history. Canadians aren't called hewers of wood for no reason. To this day, Canada's abundance in trees offers people the ability to supply themselves with energy at a desired rate and whenever they want. This ability was particularly important during the rise of fossil fuels in the late 19th and 20th century, as it allowed Canadians to adopt these new sources of fuel with lower sense of urgency compared to other industrializing nations. In other words, instead of having to succumb to the ever-growing pressures inherent in newfound sources of energy, wood gave the Canadian nation a little bit more leverage over their choice in the adoption of fossil fuels. However, as history shows, the flaw with biomass energy is the rate at which it supplies energy. With ever-growing populations around industrialized cities across Canada, trees simply couldn't keep up with the growing demand for tractable energy. After all, the burning of trees happens a lot faster than the growing of trees. This inevitably ignited the need for a more reliable source of energy that could meet all demands of energy at any time and that could be easily transported across space. In come regimes founded on fossil fuels. Fossil fuels, like coal, are a bunch of prehistoric dead plants and animals that have undergone extremely hot temperatures and simultaneously high pressures due to the numerous layers that have covered them over Earth's lengthy life. One of the main advantages found in fossil fuels is the high amounts of energy that small quantities carry. That is, compared to other options, fossil fuels are a lot more energy dense. For instance, coal can carry a lot more energy than wood can. What's more, it takes up less space than wood. In other words, coal can carry the same amount of energy that wood can, but in more confined spaces, in turn making it a lot more efficient to transport energy across space. Given that Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, one could make an argument for a relative abundance in fossil fuels underground. This abundance has the potential to meet any demanded rates of energy. However, as per usual, the delivery of this energy is the difficult part. To this day, companies and governments are still required to build immense infrastructure that can, in turn, secure the energy available for anyone on command. The different methods of transportation for fossil fuels have resulted in what is known as the grid. The grid has become reliable because there is no single point of failure. In other words, the diversification in different methods of fossil fuel transportation has created reliability in this source of energy. So much so that we can go years without experiencing shortages in energy, even in the coldest months of the year when energy is most demanded. Now, In the same way abundance in grass gave power to the Mongol Empire in the 13th century, and abundance in wood gave Canada leverage in its rise as a nation state in the late 19th century, powerful regimes in this day and age consist of those who have control over fossil fuels. Notice that I say control and not abundance in because, in today's globalized economies, countries abundant in fossil fuels don't necessarily have control over them. This may be primarily due because they simply may not have the resources and technology available to efficiently extract, transform, and deliver them as tractable energy. Other, more powerful regimes can thus come in and control these fossil fuels for them, which in turn gives the powerful regimes a reliable supply of tractable energy. A great example of this comes from the US and the Gulf Wars. The incredibly large oil reserves in Iraq didn't necessarily turn Iraq into a global powerful regime. American oil companies and the US government effectively went in to control these oil reserves, which didn't turn out to be a great idea, but it was nonetheless an attempt to further secure supplies of energy for an already powerful regime. All this to say, energy appears to be the bedrock over which regimes are made. However, like I said at the beginning, energy is everywhere. It is only through an economic lens that we begin to understand the true scarcity of energy, and through a historical lens that we begin to understand the power that comes with the control of this scarce energy.